everyone, today we're going to read the first part of chapter 3 from the Secret 7 book, Mystery of the Theatre Ghost. So chapter 3 is called Through the Secret Door. One by one, the children followed Mrs. Bagnell until everyone was inside a small, musty-smelling room. Mrs. Bagnell switched on a lamp in the corner of the room and they looked around. There were more ancient posters hanging off the walls and piles of old show programs stacked next to a dirty fireplace that had a vase of dead flowers on its mantelpiece. Mrs. Bagnell shut the little door behind them. Colin set the makeup case down on a dusty dressing table. "Look," he said, inspecting the closed door. "You can't even see that it's a door. There's no handle. It just sort of blends into the wallpaper. It is a secret door, isn't it? And that's the normal door that leads backstage over there." "You're quite right," said Mrs. Bagnell. "This theatre is full of quirky things like that. When it was redecorated, all the money must have been spent on the auditorium and the parts of the theatre that are on show to the public. Virtually nothing has changed backstage. Anyway, I'm pleased the secret room still exists." "Is this the dressing room?" asked Pam. "It's quite small." "It's one of them, yes," said Mrs. Bagnell. "One of the old forgotten ones." The children watched as Mrs. Bagnell started fiddling with a switch near the floor. Suddenly, the light bulbs surrounding the mirror came on brightly and buzzed loudly. "Good as new," said Mrs. Bagnell, beaming, as she began to unpack her things. "They have bigger dressing rooms upstairs, but I like this one. It's got character." George couldn't wait any longer. He had to ask, "Mrs. Bagnell, is it haunted here?" Mrs. Bagnell laughed. "I don't think so," she said, "but I'll keep my eye out for you." Colin couldn't stop staring at the secret door. "Can you show me how to open it from the inside?" he asked. Said Mrs. Bagnell as she began to unpack her things. "I could, but I don't want you running up and down that corridor. I'm not entirely sure there aren't a few rats out there." Janet waited for the screaming to start, but it didn't. Then she remembered that Pam and Barbara were already at the auditorium. Just then a little bell in the corner began to ring. George jumped. "What's that?" "Calm down, dear. It's just a bell. It's to tell us we're needed upstairs," said Mrs. Bagnell. "Let's go." "I thought no one knew we were here," asked Janet. "They don't," said Mrs. Bagnell, "but every dressing room has one. They're all connected." The bell rang again and Mrs. Bagnell rushed everyone out of the dressing room through the normal door and up a set of narrow wooden stairs. "Watch your step," she yelled from the top. "There are a few pieces missing." Peter looked down. There weren't just a few pieces missing. There was almost a whole step gone. The staircase led up to another long corridor. "This place is a maze," said Colin. Colin took a notepad out of his pocket and started drawing a map. Eventually, Mrs. Bagnell stopped at a large black curtain. "We're here," she said, with a huge grin on her face. And then she whipped back the curtain and yelled, "Ta-da!" "Wow," said Colin. "Look at that, and that, and that." The group looked out onto the stage and into the auditorium from the wings. There were lots of people rushing around carrying lights and props and pushing rails of costumes, and some actors were standing among it all rehearsing their lines. The auditorium looked very grand. It was filled with red velvet seats and gold pillars, and huge chandeliers hung from the ceiling.